the modern physicist Kalabi-Yau space said to exist at every point in four-dimensional space-time. Now, any similarity? In physics, the physicists are trying to analyze the interior holes of these Kalabi-Yau spaces. I would predict there are 7 of them. That's what you would predict based on Blavatsky's teaching. So this concept in physics, like, that's astonishing in my view. And Blavatsky's idea that there are these 0-point centers established in higher dimensional space, these are the basis for the laws of physics. Okay, this is another depiction of the... See, in a way, the 0-point center is in the center, and around it you have these different shells. See, the 0 point in the center is clothed in different bodies, which are formed out of the ethers surrounding the central point, due to broken symmetries in higher dimensional space. But I can't too much explain that. This is from Manly Hall, depicting the same idea. You have a 0-point center, as depicted in this diagram in higher dimensional space. The sun, according to Blavatsky, has a 0-point center. There's a point in the invisible sun she just depicts as a point within the sun. Then I come to what's called non-local effects. And this is a paradox of quantum theory. According to quantum theory, any 2 particles that have been in a singlet state, if you separate them, even though they're separate, they remain interconnected in higher dimensional phase space. So you measure one quanta or collapse its wave function, it instantaneously affects the other quanta. Now the idea, when you collapse one wave function, it doesn't send a signal over to this particle to tell it what it is. When you collapse this, it collapses this. It's like they're both together. But there's no local effect. There's no messenger particle that conveys the influence from one to the other. They're interconnected. So physicists in science, like this scientist says, there is among physicists an abhorrence of action at a distance, or non-local effects. Because scientists think that all influences of nature have to have messenger particles that convey their influences. Oh, I'll go back. But then read on the left at the very bottom. Blavatsky said there is no physical action which on closer examination does not resolve itself into action at a distance. For Blavatsky, everything involves action at a distance. It blows away everything, in a way, our whole way of thinking. Now, the idea in quantum physics that particles that emerge from a singlet state remain interconnected. But remember, the whole universe emerged from a singularity. So from the very beginning of the universe, everything is interconnected from the very beginning. So the information about the whole is everywhere, just as Blavatsky predicted. Blavatsky's basic idea of there being an omniscience that bears the information about the whole universe that is everywhere, that's what quantum physics establishes, the same concept. I'm going to have to skip through this. This is on Bohm. Then we come to holographic physics, and I'm sorry I'm going on a bit too long with all this, but newest idea in modern physics is ideas about the nature of black holes. They used to be, when matter and energy collapses down into a black hole, they now think as a material energetic system collapses to a black hole, information pours out of the black hole in order to maintain what's called the generalized law of entropy. Or that you need the increase of information to balance the loss of entropy from the collapse of a material energetic system. So now they think black holes could serve as the ultimate computers. That little mini black holes, in a way, could process huge amounts of information. Now remember, when Blavatsky described the Leia centers, how does she describe them? 7 holes dug in space. 7 mini black holes. The Leia centers are like little mini black holes established in hyperspace. This is getting very complicated. New ideas, when you get down to 0-point levels, scientists realize now at 0-point levels, you can have huge amount of information. Here he says the entropy of a black hole, 1 centimeter in diameter, would be about 10 to the 66 bytes, roughly equivalent to the thermodynamic entropy of a cube of water 10 billion kilometers on a side. So 1 cubic centimeter of a black hole could have as much information in it as you would have in a cube of 10 billion kilometer mass of water. All that information could be contained in a mini black hole. This is new ideas about black holes. When something goes into a black hole, it can also teletransport out, quantum teletransportation. So there's a whole new ideas of, I can't explain all of this, it's too complex, but I have to come to this. This is the most profound. This really is difficult, but this is the model of holographic physics here. That in the interior of this sphere, you have what's called a 5-dimensional anti-de Sitter space-time. And they believe that the physics of a black hole in this higher space dimension is rendered equivalent to the particle physics on the boundary of the sphere. Because, see, scientists in quantum theory can never account for gravity, but string theory can deal with gravity. String theory has no problem with gravity. So now they think that there might be these higher space dimensions with mini black holes, and the physics of these little holes in hyperspace are rendered equivalent to the particle physics that surround the mini black holes. This is how we could have a 0-point center and then have bodies surrounding the 0-point center. And the physics of the material bodies is rendered equivalent to the higher dimensional physics of the black holes in hyperspace. It's very complex. You have to read my book. This is Stephen Hawking showing how a black hole in higher dimensions is rendered equivalent to particle physics on the boundary condition. Of course, here, instead of having 1 sphere surrounding the black hole, Blavatsky would have 7, because there are 7 levels to the ethers. And then there are material energetic processes that occur on 7 shells surrounding the mini black hole centers. So I'm saying that human beings are designed on these principles, just as the universe is. Going to have to skip some of this. It's just 7 holes dug in space, real space, and this is what Blavatsky. So and this is a holographic space, and the physics of this holographic space. One last thing here. This is a depiction of the physics in the higher dimensional anti-de Sitter space-time. In Blavatsky's language, this is the eternal parent space. Is the 5-dimensional anti-de Sitter space-time. Okay, and they point out the physics in the anti-de Sitter space-time. If this man throws anything out from him, it automatically comes back to him. You throw something out, it comes back. Sound familiar to anyone? Does that sound like anything? Karma. Karma. And the physics, one thing black holes have is spin properties. Just like earlier I was saying, the holy circumgyrating breaths. That these little mini black holes have spin properties. It's a little Kalabi-Yau space and it has all these spin properties in the black holes. Now, anything it throws out eventually comes back. Now, the physics of this is rendered equivalent to the particle physics on the outside, which implies that if anything thrown out from this fellow in the higher dimensional space comes back to him, that is rendered equivalent to what happens on the material planes. This provides the physics of karma. I can't go into it and explain it all, but it provides the physics of karma. Anything that emerges from a black hole eventually comes back. Just like Blavatsky says, the universe emerges from a singularity. She says it will eventually come back. Scientists don't think the universe is going to contract. They think it's expanding faster and faster. Blavatsky says, no, the universe will collapse not due to the force of gravity,